Good evening everyone. I am Dr. Vasanta. Today we are going to learn something interesting and important topic that is in chemistry, that is crystal field theory. Now, breathing is very important process for our life, right? Breathing means taking in oxygen. The air around us contains only the oxygen? No, right? It contains mixture of gases. But how our body is able to bind to only oxygen, not other gases from the mixture? It is because of one component present in the blood which is binding preferably oxygen and carries oxygen throughout the body. You can see the structure of hemoglobin. It contains in the center iron atom. This iron atom binds oxygen and carries oxygen throughout the body. Now, I have seen many plants around us, right? Those plants are green in color. Why they are in green in color? Because there is a pigment called chlorophyll present in the plants. This anytime have you seen the structure of chlorophyll? Look at the screen. So this is a structure of chlorophyll which contains magnesium ion in the center. What is the function of chlorophyll? It helps in the photosynthesis process. Okay, we'll move to the another example, that is vitamin B12, which is playing a major role in our body in proper functioning of brain and nervous system, and also helps in the production of red blood cells. And this cyanocobalamin, it is also called cyanocobalamin, vitamin B12 contains cobalt metal in the center. Observe the three structures. Is there any relation between the three structures? No, right? Are they functioning similarly? No. But there is a one point which is connecting these three structures. That one point is, these are coordination compounds. So, coordination compounds not only found in living system, they are also found in medicinal field. They have applications in medicinal field. For example, cisplatin, which is a drug used to treat cancer in chemotherapy. And we can see another example, that is calcium EDTA, which is also used to treat the lead poisoning. So, these coordination compounds are also used in many fields. These coordination compounds are identified in every part of our living system. So, therefore, there is a need of study of coordination compounds. So, what is coordination compound? Coordination compound is a combination of metal and ligand. Central metal ion surrounded by a set of molecules called ligands. Metals are mostly transition metals. Ligands may be ions or molecules. Okay. Now, these metal complexes, coordination compounds, are also called as metal complexes, and these are enclosed in a square bracket. The space between the square bracket is known as coordination sphere. Now, what is the difference between coordination compound and simple compound? We have seen in the first slide, that is hemoglobin, which contains iron atom. Let me take one example of iron compound, which is a simple compound, ferric chloride. Now, dissolve these two compounds in solvent. Any solvent you can take. And what is the observation is, coordination compound never dissociates its metal ion from the structure, whereas ferric chloride dissociated into its ferric ions and chloride ions. In other words, coordination compounds retain their structural identity in the solution, whereas simple compounds are losing their structural identity. This is a special property which is there for the coordination compounds, and that is why coordination compounds have been used in many fields. Okay. Now, let us take how to learn the metal bonding properties of complexes, metal ligand bonding properties of complexes. So, there were many theories proposed to know the bonding properties of metal and the ligand. Those theories are Werner's theory, valence bond theory, crystal field theory, and molecular orbital theory. Werner's theory and valence bond theory, they were explained some properties of coordination compounds, but they are having some limitations. Those are, these two theories are unable to explain the magnetic properties, color properties, and spectral properties of coordination compounds. In order to explain these limitations, there is one theory called crystal field theory, which is advanced theory discovered. Okay, let's learn more about crystal field theory. This theory was proposed by Hans Bethe and Van Vleck. These two scientists, they have discovered this crystal field theory and applied to ionic crystals. So, therefore, the name is given as crystal field theory. Okay, let us see the postulates of crystal field theory. This theory considers a complex as a combination of central metal ion surrounded by ligands. Next point is, there is electrostatic attraction between the metal positive charge, ligand negative charge. Because of this electrostatic attraction, the bonding between the metal and ligand is ionic bond. So, according to crystal field theory, the bond between the metal and ligand is ionic bond. Next, see the another point, that is, these crystal field theory considers negative ligands as a point dipoles, point charges, and neutral ligands as a point dipoles. Negative ligands and there are neutral ligands. Negative ligands are considered as a point charges and neutral ligands as a point dipoles. Okay. Next point is, there is a repulsion between the metal electrons and negative ligands. All ligands are negative charged, right? So, there exists a electrostatic repulsion between the metal electrons and ligand negative charge. These electrostatic repulsions are responsible for the splitting of d orbitals. Next, the last postulate is, there is a no overlapping concept. That means, orbitals, metal orbitals and ligand orbitals never overlaps with each other, which was very important concept in valence bond theory. Okay, this is about the postulates of crystal field theory. In order to understand the crystal field splitting pattern in complexes, we need to learn shapes of d orbitals. Let us see shapes of d orbitals. There are 5 d orbitals. What are they? dxy, dxz, dyz, dx square minus y square, and dz square. Right. So, here dxy, dxz, dyz, these orbitals are having their lobes in between the axes. So, these are named as non-axial orbitals. Having their lobes in between the axes called as non-axial orbitals. And dx square minus y square and dz square, these are having their lobes along the axis. These are also called axial orbitals. Axial orbitals. And in octahedral geometry, these non-axial orbitals are also called as T2G orbitals. And axial orbitals are called as EG orbitals. Here T is triply degenerate. 3 orbitals are having same energy. And here E is doubly degenerate. 2 orbitals are having same energy. Okay. And here subscript G is used. It is a German word, gerade. It is applied to the molecule when it is applied to the molecules when molecules are having inversion center. So when inversions are here in octahedral geometry, it contains inversion center. So therefore these are represented as gerade. Okay. Next, we'll see the splitting pattern of d orbitals in octahedral geometry. This is the octahedral geometry. How many ligands will be there in octahedral geometry? There are 6 ligands. In octahedral geometry, there are 6 ligands. Those ligands are, look at the screen, those ligands are arranged at the 6 corners of the octahedron. They are arranged at the 6 corners of octahedron. Now assign the axis for this complex. X, Y, Z axis. This is X axis and this is Y axis and this is Z axis. 3 ligands are along the axis. Ligands are along the axis. Now we'll see the splitting pattern in octahedral geometry. We'll take one example, titanium hexafluoro complex. There are 6 ligands. In the free metal ion, all the d orbitals are degenerate in state. That means they are having same energy. Assume that all the 6 ligands approaching the metal ion from an equal distance. Then because of repulsions, orbitals increases their energy, but still they remain in degenerate state because it is a spherical interaction from the ligands. Okay. So this situation is called hypothetical situation. Hypothetical situation. It is not possible in the complexes. Then what happens? Since the EG orbitals having their lobes along the axis, ligands are also having along the axis. Ligands are also present along the axis, right? So therefore, the orbitals which are having their lobes along the axis, they will experience more repulsions from the ligands. Hence, EG orbitals experiences more repulsions from the ligands. Greater the repulsion, greater will be the increase in the energy. Therefore, EG orbitals increases their energy. Increases their energy. Okay. And next, T2G orbitals, they are having lobes in between the axis. In between the axis, there are no ligands actually in the structure. So, no ligands means less repulsions. Less repulsions leads to decrease in the energy of the orbitals. Therefore, T2G orbitals decreases their energy. Okay. The energy difference between T2G and EG is given by delta O. O is here octahedral geometry. Delta O is crystal field splitting energy in octahedral geometry. And here the d orbital degeneracy will be removed in the presence of 6 ligands. They are divided into T2G and EG. And T2G orbitals decreases their energy by an amount of minus 0.4 delta O. minus 0.4 delta O. And Eg orbitals increases their energy by an amount of plus 0.6 delta O. You can see the slide. A free metal ion is having degenerate state. Then we can observe the hypothetical degenerate state, and then orbitals are splitted into T2g and Eg. Energy difference is given by delta O. T2g orbitals decreases their energy by an amount of minus 0.4 delta O, and Eg orbitals increases their energy by an amount of plus 0.6 delta O. Right. Now, the magnitude of delta O depends on nature of the ligand. Depends on nature of the ligand. All the common ligands are arranged in the increasing order of their delta O values. Increasing order of their delta O values. That series is called spectrochemical series. That series is called spectrochemical series. You can observe the slide. There are some ligands in the increasing order. From this series, we can classify the ligands into strong ligands and weak ligands. Okay. From iodide to water, H2O, these ligands are called weak ligands. From I minus to H2O, they are called weak ligands. From NCS minus to CO, these are called strong ligands. So, what we can learn from the spectrochemical series? We can classify the ligands into strong ligands and weak ligands. Okay. In the presence of weak ligands, the complexes are called as weak field complexes. Complexes are called as weak field complexes, and they are also called as high spin complexes. They are also called as high spin complexes. Now coming to the strong ligands, if they are present in the complex, those are called strong field complexes, and they are also called low spin complexes. Let us see the features of high spin complexes and low spin complexes. So, we can see on the screen, high spin complexes are formed from weak ligands and low spin complexes are formed from strong ligands, as we have discussed now. High spin complexes are having delta O less than P. Here what is P? P is pairing energy. Pairing energy is defined as the energy required to pair two electrons in the same orbital. Why it is requiring energy? Because two electrons has to be accommodated in the same orbital which are having same charge. They will have repulsions. So, in order to keep together in one orbital, it requires some energy which is called pairing energy. That is very high in case of high spin complexes. Okay. In low spin complexes, delta O is greater than P. Greater than P. Pairing energy is less than delta O. Okay. And now high spin complexes are follows Hund's rule. That means in the arrangement of the electrons, it follows Hund's rule. What is Hund's rule? Each orbital will get singly filled, then only pairing occurs. So, in presence of weak ligands, arrangement of the electrons takes place according to the Hund's rule. Coming to the low spin complexes, that means in the presence of strong ligands, arrangement of the electrons does not follow Hund's rule. That means they are not following Hund's rule, pairing takes place. Before the orbitals getting singly filled, pairing occurs. And always high spin complexes are paramagnetic in nature and low spin complexes are diamagnetic in nature. Paramagnetic means presence of unpaired electron, and diamagnetic means presence of paired electrons. Okay. So these are the differences between high spin complexes and low spin complexes. So we can why weak field ligands shows less delta O value. That means crystal field splitting energy will be less in weak field complexes, whereas it is very large, high in case of strong field ligands or strong field complexes. Okay. So now we can see the in the slide, that is difference between high spin and low spin. The energy difference between T2G and EG in high spin is less when compared to the low spin. Okay. That is because of low spin complexes are formed from strong ligands and high spin complexes are formed from weak ligands. Now let us see how the distribution of electrons takes place in high spin and low spin complexes. We will take configurations from D1 to D10. D1 to D10. Okay. From D1 to D3, whether it is high spin complex or low spin complex, 3 electrons will be arranged in the T2G orbital only. So we can have the splitting pattern here. This is for high spin. We will take first high spin. This is for low spin. So EG orbitals and T2G orbitals. EG and T2G. Okay. The first 3 electrons arranged in T2G only, whether it is high spin or low spin. The difference comes from D4. The 4th electron enters into EG orbital in case of high spin complex, whereas it is paired in the T2G set only in case of low spin complexes. Okay. Then see the D6 configuration. In D6 also 6th electron in high spin goes to EG set, and here 5th electron will be arranged in the T2G set in case of low spin complex in D5 configuration. Now D6, here the 6th electron in high spin complex arranged in the T2G orbital, whereas in low spin it is paired in the T2G set only. That means in T2G set is now completely paired up in low spin complexes. Let us see the D7 configuration. In D7 configuration, 7th electron will be arranged in the T2G set. Okay. In high spin, low spin 7th electron goes to EG set, and 8th electron here it is paired up, and here it is in the EG set. So D9 configuration and D10 configuration is same for both high spin and low spin complexes. That means D9, 9th electron will be arranged in EG in case of high spin. It is arranged in EG in case of low spin. 10th electron also. So in this way, distribution of the electrons takes place in high spin and low spin complexes. Okay. So this is about the spectrochemical series, high spin and low spin complexes. Now we will move to the one. Now I will ask one question. What is the use of this splitting pattern in the complexes? I will explain. Before splitting, complexes are having some energy, relatively more energy will be there. But when ligands approaches, splitting takes place, d orbitals undergo splitting and loses some energy. That energy can be given by crystal field stabilization energy. Crystal field stabilization energy. When it loses energy, what happens? Complex gets stability. So that's why it is called crystal field stabilization energy. It can be defined as decrease in energy due to splitting of d orbitals under the influence of various ligands. Under the influence of various ligands, splitting of the d orbitals takes place. As a result of splitting, decreases the energy in the complex. So that will increase the stability of the complex. Then how to calculate this CFSE for the complexes? Let us see. Loss of energy due to electrons in T2g orbitals is given by minus 0.4 into T2g electrons. Okay, we have seen in octahedral geometry. What we have seen? T2g orbitals decreases their energy by an amount of minus 0.4 delta O. That only we have taken here. Loss of energy due to electrons in T2g, which is equal to minus 0.4 into T2g electrons. And gain in energy due to electrons in Eg orbital is given by plus 0.6 into T2g Eg electrons into Eg electrons. Okay. So, Eg electrons increases their energy by an amount of plus 0.6 delta O. That we have taken here. Now, net change in energy. So, it is given by sum of these two, minus 0.4 into T2g electrons plus 0.6 into Eg electrons into delta O. You can see this is the formula of net change in energy is nothing but crystal field stabilization energy. This is the formula of crystal field stabilization energy. But here if you consider M and P, what is M? Number of electron pairs. P is already we have discussed pairing energy. If you consider this, the equation becomes, we have to add plus MP. That means number of electron pairs present in the complex we have to represent here. Okay. As we all know, there is a relation between delta O and 10 dq, that is delta O is also called as 10 dq. So, now in place of delta O you can substitute 10 dq. So, the equation becomes 0 minus 0, in place of delta O we can write 10 dq. Complete this one will be there, 10 dq plus MP. So, this is the final equation for CFSE, calculation of crystal field stabilization energy. Okay. Now, we will take one complex and we will calculate CFSE of that complex. Take one manganese complex with cyanide ligands. So, this is the complex we have taken to calculate the CFSE. I have simplified calculation of CFSE in 5 steps. First step is, we have to write outermost configuration of metal ion present in the complex. Outer configuration or outermost configuration of metal. This is the first step. Second step is calculate oxidation state of metal. Then third step is write the configuration of metal in that oxidation state. Fourth step is see the nature of the ligand. nature of ligand, that means whether it is strong ligand or weak ligand. Then fifth step is distribute the electrons according to that. Distribute the electrons. Okay. Now we'll apply these 5. Then after distribution, calculate CFSE by using that formula whatever I have given. Now look at the slide. Outermost configuration of manganese is 3d5-4s2. What is the second step? Calculate the oxidation state of manganese. It is +3. In this manganese complex, it is +3. And again write the configuration of manganese in that +3 oxidation state. +3 means we have to remove 3 electrons. So it becomes 3d4. When you remove 3 electrons, it becomes 3d4. Okay. And what is the next step? See the nature of the ligand. What is the ligand present in the complex? Cyanide. Is it a strong ligand or weak ligand? This can be known from spectrochemical series, right? From the spectrochemical series, we classified the ligands into strong ligands and weak ligands. That means you have to learn the spectrochemical series perfectly in order to calculate the CFSE of the complexes. Here Cn- is a strong ligand. Therefore, arrange the electrons according to that. What is strong ligand? Strong ligand can form low spin complexes. Low spin means arrangement of the electrons takes place against the Hund's rule, right? Against the Hund's rule. Is it an octahedral complex? Yes. So splitting of d orbitals will be T2g and Eg. Then arrange these 4 electrons against the Hund's rule. So what is the configuration becomes? First 3 will be arranged in the T2g and fourth one also get paired up in the T2g orbital only. So the final configuration is T2g4 Eg0. Now substitute these number of electrons in CFSE formula. You can see CFSE is equal to what is the equation? Minus 0.4 into P. P is the electrons present in the T2g orbitals plus 0.6 into Q. Q is the number of electrons present in Eg orbitals plus delta O plus MP. Okay. How many electrons are there in T2g? 4 electrons. So minus 0.4 into 4 plus 0.6 into how many electrons are there in Eg? 0. Okay. Now calculate, and now here what is M? Number of electron pairs. How many electron pairs are there? In the distribution of electrons, we have got 1 pair of electron, right? So a pair of electron is there, M is equal to 1. You can write there 1p. So we'll get the answer minus 1.6 delta O plus 1p. Minus 1.6 delta O plus 1p. Okay. Now convert this delta O into 10 dq. What is relation between delta O and 10 dq? Delta O is equal to 10 dq. Then minus 1.6 delta O into 10 plus 1p. Delta O is 10, right? Into 10 dq plus 1p. So it becomes minus 16 dq plus 1p. So we can express CFSE either in the form of dq or either in the form of dq or delta O. Okay. This is about the manganese with strong ligands. Next we will see same complex but ligands are same metal ion but ligands are weak ligands. When weak ligands are present, there is only one difference, that is distribution of the electrons. Now in weak ligand, all the these first three steps are common. That is oxidation state, outermost configuration, oxidation state, configuration of the manganese in that oxidation state. See the nature of the ligand now. It is a weak ligand. Water is a weak ligand. We have learned from spectrochemical series. Therefore, the distribution of the electrons takes place according to the Hund's rule. Right. So, now we will arrange the electrons in T2G and EG. So, the configuration is 3D4. First three electrons are arranged in the T2G set and fourth electron will goes to EG. Now, the configuration becomes T2G3 EG1. Now, you can calculate the CFSE and the final answer you will get here is minus 0.6 delta O. There are no electron pairs. So, M is equal to 0. Only we have the minus 0.6 delta O, or we can write minus 6 dq. Minus 6 dq. Okay. So, in this way we have to calculate CFSE of complexes. Is it clear? Okay. We will move to this is about the octahedral geometry, splitting of d orbitals in octahedral geometry, spectrochemical series, high spin and low spin complexes, calculation of CFSE for strong ligands when they are calculation of CFSE when the ligands are strong, when the ligands are weak. We have seen difference, and now we will go for the another topic, that is crystal field splitting in tetrahedral geometry. Okay. So, we will see the tetrahedral geometry. Tetrahedral means how many ligands are present? 4 ligands. It is a tetrahedral geometry, 4 ligands are present. In order to understand the splitting pattern in tetrahedral geometry, we have to place the tetrahedron in a cube. So, look at the slide. We have placed the tetrahedron in a cube. Cube is having 8 corners. 4 ligands are occupied the 4 corners of the cube. Okay, in the tetrahedral 4 ligands occupies 4 corners of the cube. Then assign the axis x, y, z. Observe the structure. Here ligands are in between the axis, right? Ligands are present in between the axis, whereas in octahedral geometry ligands are present along the axis. So, that is the difference in tetrahedral and octahedral geometry. Okay. So, now we'll study the splitting pattern in tetrahedral geometry. Here in tetrahedral geometry, orbitals are named as E and T2. G term is not used in tetrahedral geometry because tetrahedral is not having inversion center. Already I have discussed. The orbitals which are having, the molecules which are having inversion center, for those molecules we can represent Jarrett term, and if inversion center is not there means we should not give this Jarrett term, right? Okay. So, orbitals in tetrahedral geometry are named as E and T2. E orbitals contains again dx square minus y square and dz square. T2 orbitals are nothing but dxy, dxz and dyz. Okay. So, observe the structure I told you. In that the E orbitals are having their lobes along the axis. T2 orbitals are having their lobes in between the axis, right? So, the orbitals which are having their lobes exactly in the path of approaching ligands, those orbitals experiences more repulsions. Now which orbitals are experiencing more repulsions in tetrahedral? T2 orbitals, because T2 orbitals are having their lobes in between the axes. In the cube, the ligands are also present in between the axes. So therefore, T2 orbitals experiences more repulsions, therefore more will be the increase in the energy of T2 orbitals. Okay. Now coming to the E orbitals, they are along the axis. E orbitals are having their lobes along the axis. Along the axis, is there any ligand in the cubical structure? No, right? Therefore, E orbitals experiences less repulsions. Less repulsion means decreases their energy. So the same situation in the free metal ion, all the 5 d orbitals are degenerate. If all the ligands, 4 ligands are approaching the metal ion from an equal distance, they experience same magnitude of repulsions and increases their energy, but still they will be in the degenerate state. This is called hypothetical situation. Okay. Now in the presence of tetrahedral field, T2 orbitals increases their energy and E orbitals decreases their energy as a result of repulsions experienced from the ligands. Okay. The energy difference between E and T2 is given by delta T. Delta T is tetrahedral crystal field splitting energy. E orbitals decreases their energy by an amount of minus 0.6 delta T. And T2 orbitals increases their energy by an amount of plus 0.4 delta T. Hence, in the presence of 4 ligands, degeneracy of the d orbitals removed in the tetrahedral complexes and d orbitals splitted into E and T2. Here G term is not used. Observe this splitting pattern. It is just reverse to the octahedral geometry. In octahedral we have seen T2G is having lower energy and EG is having higher energy. So it is reverse to the octahedral geometry. Now when do we expect tetrahedral geometry? When the ligands are weak, then tetrahedral geometries are possible. When ligands are weak ligands, then those are forming tetrahedral geometry. When ligands are strong, when the ligands are strong with coordination number 4 gives square planar geometry. So now here tetrahedral geometry is possible only with the weak field complexes and they form only the high spin complexes. All tetrahedral geometries are forming high spin complexes. Okay. Here compare the delta O and delta T. Delta O and delta T. That means energy difference between T2G and EG in case of octahedral, E and T2 in case of tetrahedral. Always delta T is less than delta O. Delta T is less than delta O. Delta T is equal to 4 by 9 delta O. Always delta T is less than delta O. Why? Because there are two reasons. The first reason is these, compare the number of ligands in octahedral and tetrahedral geometry. In octahedral there are 6 ligands, whereas in tetrahedral there are only 4 ligands. In octahedral geometry repulsions are from 6 ligands, whereas in tetrahedral geometry repulsions are from 4 ligands only. So automatically repulsions from 6 ligands means energy difference will be more. And the second reason is, observe the higher energy orbital in octahedral and tetrahedral geometry. In octahedral, higher energy level is Eg, and in tetrahedral, higher energy level is T2. Why these two are increasing their energy? Because they are experiencing more repulsions from the ligands, right? Because they are having their lobes exactly in the path of approaching ligands. So that's why these are increasing their energies. Compared to EG, T2G orbitals experiences less repulsions because EG orbital lobes are exactly in the path of approaching ligands in case of octahedral geometry. Whereas T2 orbitals having they are not exactly in the path of approaching ligands, but they are close to the ligands. There is a difference, right? When they are exactly in the path of approaching ligands, they are close to the ligands. Automatically, the one which is having exactly in the path of approaching ligands will experience more repulsions. So, therefore, EG will experiences greater repulsions than the T2. So, increase in energy for EG will be more than T2. So, that is what the energy difference between delta T, energy difference between E and T2, that is delta T and delta O. Delta O is, this is a relation, delta T is less than delta O. We can see the see in the diagram. Here tetrahedral is having delta T which is very less in between E and T2, and octahedral is having more delta O, right, T2G and EG, because of two reasons. Delta T is always less than delta O. Okay. Now we'll see the splitting pattern in square planar geometry. Splitting pattern in square planar geometry. When square planar geometries are possible? When ligands are strong. When strong ligands are present in the complex, we can observe the square planar geometry, right? Here, what is the coordination number for square planar geometry? That means how many number of ligands are present? 4 ligands. 4 ligands are there means there is a possibility of formation of tetrahedral as well as square planar geometry. But when ligands are weak, they form tetrahedral. When ligands are strong, they form square planar geometry. Okay, we'll take square planar geometry. It is obtained from octahedral geometry when you remove 2 ligands which are present along the z-axis. When we'll take octahedral geometry. These are the axes x, y, z. When you remove the 2 ligands along the z-axis, then we are going to get a square planar geometry. A square planar geometry. Okay. So, that means there are no ligands along the z-axis. Along the z-axis, no ligands. Now, we will see the splitting pattern. Observe the square planar geometry. Here, in square planar geometry, ligands are present along the x and y axis. There are no ligands along the z axis. Okay. That means the orbitals which are having their lobes along the axis of z, in between the z axis, will not experience repulsions. That means they experience repulsions from x and y from the ligands which are present along the x and y, but very less compared to the orbitals which are having their lobes along x and y axis. Okay. The orbitals which are having their lobes along z axis and in between the z axis are dz square, dxz, dyz. These 3 orbitals, they are having their lobes in between the axis and along the z axis. in between the z-axis and along the z-axis. So these orbitals experiences less repulsions because they are not along the z-axis, no ligands. So therefore less repulsions will be present. Okay. We'll take remaining orbitals which are having their lobes along x and y axis. Those are dx square minus y square dxy. Dx square minus y square is having its lobes along x and y axis, whereas dxy is having its lobes in between the x and y axis. Along x and y axis only there are ligands, right? So therefore these orbitals experiences more repulsions. Greater the repulsions, more will be the increase in the energy. Okay. So in square planar geometry, splitting will be like this. It is obtained from octahedral, right? So we'll take octahedral geometry first. T2G and EG. Okay. Now from EG, one orbital is decreasing its energy, one orbital is increasing its energy. From T2G, so this is a splitting pattern. So highest energy orbital is dx square minus y square. Lowest energy orbitals are dxz and dyz. Next comes dz square, next dxy, then dx square minus y square. So the energy difference between these two is given by delta sp, square planar, splitting energy in square planar geometry. So this is about the splitting pattern in octahedral, tetrahedral and square planar geometry. Now it's application time. Let us apply whatever we have learned so far. I have given two questions you can see on the screen. Explain why cobalt 3 forms paramagnetic complex with weak field ligands, whereas it forms diamagnetic complex with strong ligands. How you can solve this problem? Cobalt 3 means it is having configuration of 3d7 and 4s2. Cobalt outermost configuration is 3d7 and 4s2. Cobalt 3 they have mentioned, right? So it is 3d6. 3d6 in presence of weak ligands, according to the Hund's rule, pairing arrangement of the electrons takes place. Arrangement of electrons according to Hund's rule means there will be a unpaired electron in the distribution, right? So it becomes paramagnetic. Whereas in strong ligands, what happens? Pairing takes place. These 6 electrons will be arranged in the T2G set only. So no unpaired electrons. So therefore, in the presence of strong ligands, these cobalt 3 forms diamagnetic complex. Try to answer the second question. Arrange the complexes in the increasing order of crystal field splitting energy. So now how to do this problem? See the nature of the ligands. What are the 3 complexes? One complex is having chloride, one complex Cn minus, one complex is NH3. So you have to learn the spectrochemical series. From that you will be knowing which ligand is strong and which ligand is weak. Among these 3 ligands, chloride is weak, so it will have less delta O. So therefore number 1 will have less delta O value. Then comes Cn and NH3. Cn is a very stronger ligand compared to the NH3. So then comes second one. Then the one which is having more energy, more delta O value is number 1, 3 and 2. This is the arrangement of complexes. Okay. Now I'll give one assignment for you. Calculate CFSE for these following complexes. I have given 5 complexes. Try to do, which is very important for your PG entrance also. Okay. So this is about the today's class. So we have learned so many things in the today's class. Hope you have understood today's class. Thank you so much.